DJ ATV.
To run due to a pending lawsuit against him and for his running mate, Kashim Shettima, who was still a serving senator when he ran for office. He alleged that it is in clear breach of the Electoral Act, and in consequence, Peter Obi, among other prayers, is asking the tribunal to issue him a certificate of return as the duly elected Nigerian president, or in the case where it cannot do so, he is urging the panel to cancel the entire election and hold fresh polls, of which the APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not be on the ballot. Godfrey Eshemoge, Arise News.
Well, Arise legal analyst Chinwe Ezegbe joins us now for more on this. Chinwe, good to see you and thanks for your time. Finally, the battle is here, but again, we need to quickly establish this. It's not about looking at the matter that is in court. We're trying to look at some of the key concerns that may come up on D-Day. So Chinwe, help us paint a picture of what this will mean for Nigeria's democracy as the Labour Party goes to the court.
Hello, Ngozi. Hello, Salami. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Go ahead.
Good. Now, you know that the Presidential Election Tribunal is one that has been constituted under the Nigerian Constitution. At the same time, we have very strict time bounds within which the tribunal must comply, and all parties, including the applicant and the respondent, they both must comply with very strict time limits. And what we lawyers refer to as sui generis, which means time bound, and which means that each party must file their petition within a specified time limit. So all lawyers have very, very strict compliance. They must comply with all the Electoral Act, regulations and statutes. For example, even though we do not want to speak so much about the varied details of the case, we can actually refer to Section 134 of the Electoral Act, which states exactly what the grounds must be. So before a petition is filed, either at the tribunal, by the NAS, or by the Presidential Election Tribunal, by the president-elect who is actually contesting the election, we must look at Section 134 of the Electoral Act. Now that says, in effect, that first ground that must be established without being sub judice is that the candidate who was elected did not comply with the age, or there was no prior prerequisite qualification. That is the first ground. The second ground is that there were corrupt practices in respect of the election and in respect of the electoral process. And the third ground is that the candidate did not qualify with a lawful number of votes cast. In other words, the candidate did not have majority of lawful votes. Now, those three grounds under Section 134 of the Electoral Act must be sufficiently established before the tribunal in cases of the NAS and Governorship Election Tribunal cases, or in the cases of the Presidential Election Tribunal at the Court of Appeal. Now, there are time limits which must be established.
Right.
The first one is that 21 days is all they have to comply from the date that election results have been declared to the first date of the hearing. Now, those 21 days started from 1st of March, as we know. So from 1st of March, it should expire in today. So petition must be filed by Peter Obi by latest today. Then also, they have 60 days within which to lodge their appeals from the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court in cases of Presidential Election Tribunal cases. Now, for the NAS and governorship election tribunals, they have 180 days from the date of the first hearing to the last date of the decision that's been made by the tribunal or the court.
Right.
So there are very strict time limits, Ngozi,
Fantastic,
which must be complied with.
And thank you so much for breaking it down for us.
Thank
Let's
you.
bring in, help us deepen it even further. Frank, good to see you. You've been on top of this for a while, of Peter Obi going to court on the prayers, the two prayers that he made, and the grounds on which he is approaching the court. Help us get a deeper grasp of what the issues are here.
Well, Peter Obi is approaching the tribunal to declare him as the winner of the election based on lawful votes, to the extent that votes that were cast for the All Progressive Congress and the flag bearer, together with the president, the presidential and vice presidential flag bearers of the All Progressive Congress, amounted to wasted votes. Interestingly, that is one of his main prayers, together with alternative prayers. Alternative prayers, in that extent, means that if those prayers he had asked, the initial prayers or the relief he had sought, together with the fact that he is trying to establish that the candidates of the All Progressive Congress, the presidential candidate was not qualified, together with his vice presidential or running mate, then also canvassing the theory of regarding the Federal Capital Territory, the special status of Federal Capital Territory, and if that fails, if the court does not agree with such main prayers that as he has couched it, then the court should proceed to alternative prayers too, which includes that the court should consider to cancel the elections generally because of non-compliance to the provisions of Section 134. The courts are the ones on trial here, not necessarily the facts and the law that are brought before it. The Presidential Election Tribunal, at this stage, with the appeal court and subsequently the Supreme Court, will now be watched very closely as it makes a determination of what Nigerians felt so much about. It is expected that the court will put to rest whatever controversies there are in with regards to the outcome of the presidential election. But Peter Obi's petition comes with that assumption that the People's Democratic Party may not file. We are not very sure about that. And again, we can't speak to it so much in terms of legal propriety and according to broadcasting rules, especially when the respondents have not actually filed their own response. I'm talking about the All Progressive Congress, the Independent National Electoral Commission, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu with the Kashim Shettima. Until they file, we will now see what the real issues are, I would say. But again, I must close on this line by saying that because Nigerians have been so worried about the status of the court on whether or not they deliver justice, in this case the Presidential Election Tribunal, it is important that the court does everything possible to make its proceedings quite public, to the extent that for once, as we have seen in other climes, like not too far away Ghana here, where we have seen live proceedings of live broadcast of the proceedings of Presidential Electoral Tribunal. We're hoping that the court, in this case the Court of Appeal, will adopt that, because I believe that we successfully led a campaign that convinced the National Judicial Council that it is time we have had live broadcast of court proceedings in Nigeria. This should be the time, because justice is rooted in confidence. It's not enough that Nigerians hear about pronouncements from the Court of Appeal on this matter, or ultimately from the Supreme Court. but they should have opportunity to participate in the way the litigation process is done, to the extent that we will see tendering of pieces of evidence, proof of whether or not certain results were cooked, or why certain states or certain results should be cancelled, and why, after counting lawful votes, anybody should be declared winner or loser in that regard. So the courts are actually the ones on trial here.
DJ ATV. DJ ATV.
Fulani people don't say no, they don't like us. Welcome to DJ TV.
DJ ATV. DJ ATV. DJ ATV. DJ ATV.
Some of the delegates and ask them questions.
DJ ATV. DJ ATV. DJ ATV. DJ ATV.